Welcome to Networking RX, a podcast devoted to helping business professionals like you enhance your networking skills in order to become more proficient giving and receiving quality business referrals and improving the overall quality of your life and the lives of those around you. The Networking RX podcast is a production of AmSpirit Business Connections, an organization whose mission is to empower business success through networking.
I hear lots of excuses as to why people don't network. And they don't just come out right out and network or come out and make these excuses. But when you start to talk to them, it's like, well, why are these things not happening? You know, you want referrals. You know, you need to you need to build a network. You know, you need to do these things. You want to do these things. So why not? And, you know, a lot of it is, well, people will tell you they're busy. I'm too busy. And in my mind, that's just an excuse. There's, you know, you're going to run out of work if you don't get out and do this stuff. So why not? Why don't you carve time out? And eventually it comes down to they're just uncomfortable. They're just uncomfortable being around strangers. And I think that's something that's kind of ingrained in us as humans. We, you know, grew up in tribes and strangers weren't a good thing. And I've mentioned that on the podcast before, but a lot of times it's just, I don't know what to say. You know, I get in these rooms, I just don't know what to say. And so we hear the talk about elevator pitches, 30-second commercials, and people get all caught up in that. So recently I had an opportunity. I was introduced to Andrew Winnig, and he goes by Andy Winnig. He's on with me today, and he is the author of the Elevator Pitch Handbook, the step-by-step guide to starting conversations. This is what he does. He is an elevator pitch coach. He learned the hard way. He was, cold calling junkie, to now a trusted advisor, and has really kind of learned the hard way, what works and what doesn't. So, Andy, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Frank. It's great to be here.
You and I've talked before, as with a lot of my guests. So I'm going to give you the opening, just to kind of share your story as to how you got, how do you become the elevator pitch coach?
Well, that's what I always dreamed of, Frank, from when I was
that's right. I went to college. I saw that they had a program.
I always wanted to be an elevator pitch coach. And yeah, I mean, it's funnier than that because I'm actually trained as a computer software engineer. So I programmed computers for years. But it's interesting. I fell into this because I think we teach what we most needed to learn. And I was in a situation where I was cold call selling, as you said, and they said, well, go out and network. Like, that's kind of a nicer way. I didn't mind the cold calling, but I had to drag myself out every morning by the collar to get myself out on the street. And so I joined the local chamber of commerce and started going to networking events, and it just didn't make any sense. I mean, I wasn't getting any leads. I couldn't figure out what to say. My elevator pitch it just didn't make any sense to me. But I'm an engineer. I said, figure this out. Like, there's got to be a way. And so I started, I went to a lot of meetings and took ideas and skills and tried things out. And over time just came up with this approach that works. It works consistently, and it's not that hard. It's just kind of counterintuitive to the ways we learn to communicate in school. And that's really the problem people have, that you just we're all thinking about this backwards. And when you think about it forwards, it makes a lot more sense, and it's a lot easier. So that's kind of how I got into being the elevator pitch coach. I needed to learn it and figured it out. And I say it took me 8 years to figure this stuff out, but it takes me 1 hour to get an elevator pitch for people and about 3 months to teach them how to network more effectively. So
yeah. So you learned this out of necessity for yourself. How did it transition over to, oh my God, I've got an asset here. I know how to rub sticks together and make fire. People will buy this.
Yeah, the first time it happened, I had worked with a real estate agent on her. She wanted to do a video, and this was back before the iPhone. This was actually, tripod and video. Yeah. So I was working with her on her presence on video, but it turned out she needed help with the messaging as well, and so I helped her with that. And then she referred me to a lawyer who needed help with his messaging, and so I helped him with that. And afterwards, I still like to ask this of my clients. I said, do you mind me asking how you decided to work with me? And this lawyer said to me, he said, you're an elevator pitch coach, and I needed help with my elevator pitch. And I had never called myself an elevator pitch coach up to that point, but
Right.
I have ever since. And that was the thing. I had worked out, I had worked out a way of doing this for people that they hadn't seen before, and just made sense to them. But it came from my client. Like, that was when I figured out I had something that
Right.
maybe would.
I don't want to. Well, we're not going to give the book away. It's again, it's the Elevator Pitch Handbook. I guess if you could share some insights with us, what are some big challenges that people face, or common mistakes?
Yeah. So the most common mistake people make with the elevator pitch is that they're way too general. And I like to tell people this, the reason this feels so comfortable to people is that it goes back to second grade. And I didn't know this before my kids were in second grade. It's been a while now, but they came home one day with this worksheet, and the worksheet had a picture of a lion and a picture of a tiger and a picture of a house cat. And they had written in there, second grade, all feline underneath, right? They're all felines. And, oh, good job, you're so smart. And so this is what we're taught from second grade. And as human beings, as a species, this has been important to our, success, if you call it that. Like, we're able to categorize things and look at things and generalize. The problem is that from a growing a business point of view, people don't make the connection from the general to the specific, right? If you say, I'm looking for business owners, people don't really think of themselves as business owners. You don't think of the people that as business owners. You need to think more specifically. And so if you say, well, I'm looking for landscapers, people, everyone's like, oh, well, I'll rule out all the other people. Like, no, if you say landscapers, people say, well, I'm a plumber. Like, could you help me? I need help with that, but I'm a plumber. Could you help me with that? And Frank, the holy grail for the elevator pitch is, how do I figure out who the person is? And the answer to that is you be specific. And it's completely counterintuitive, and it still works. Like, when you're specific, people actually open up to you. They're like, oh, well, if you do that, then maybe you could do this. That's when they start making the connections. And so by far the biggest mistake people make is that they try to, and people come to me all the time. They say, look, they said, I do these three things. I need a set of words that encompass all those three things. I'm like, yeah, we don't do that. Like, that doesn't help you. What we want to do is pick one of those things. And that's what I help them. I help them figure out kind of which thing to pick. But you pick one of those things, and then you create a message around that thing. And that's what creates the program. And I'm the elevator pitch coach, right? I mean, I do presentation skills coaching. I do delegation training. I do generalized business coaching. People come to me for the elevator pitch. We start the conversation on the elevator pitch, and then it leads to more things. And so that's really that's the big tip that I leave people with.
No, I'm in total agreement with you. I'm fond of saying that a lot of times people try to say everything. They try to come up with a pitch that encompasses everything, and in the end end up saying nothing.
Correct.
Right? They come up with a word that it means everything to me, but it doesn't mean anything to anybody else.
Well, and people come to me and they say, I figured it out. I figured out what I do. I help small businesses increase their revenue. And I'm like, look, that's not unique at all. Everybody who's helping help people increase revenue. Like, that does not set you apart. If what you're looking to do is set yourself apart, that's the opposite, right? By being general, that's what everyone does. And so you want to be specific.
I'm looking over at a board. I wrote this one down. I'm a consultant that works with small businesses, helping them maximize success. Right. I had to write that down when the person said that to me, and I never want to be mean to people, but it's like, hey, come on, Derek. Let's stop and let's look at what you said, Well,
but so that is what he does, right? That is a fine description. Like, it's true. What he said is true. It just doesn't help people connect with him or connect him with the right people for his work, because it's so general that you just have no idea. Like, anybody, what does success mean? Like, you go through the thing. What does success mean? What does this mean? Like, you have no idea what he's going for.
The consultants, the guy who picks up your trash is arguably a consultant, and he got it right away. It's like, yeah, you're right. And I'm not the elevator pitch coach. So I just said something you need to work on, because, people don't bring their level of understanding down to you. It's not their job to figure out what you said.
Right. And you don't want them making any leaps, right? I mean, I get a lot of people who have the word you talked about. They define and they say the word, and like, oh, people ask me about the word. I'm like, no, they won't. Like, you need to get into there. You need to give them something like, oh, I need that. Like, that's what you really want. Or somebody I know needs that, right? You really want something that, and in fact, I talk a lot about the pillow talk test, right? That what you're looking for in the elevator pitch is someone's going to wake up in the morning and turn to their partner and say, you know what, honey, today's the day. I'm going to. And, are they going to leverage the across the silos of their capabilities. Like, no, nobody's doing that, right? And nobody's like, today's the day I'm gonna, I'm gonna live the life of my dreams. Like, no, that's not what people are looking for. Like, what do they want to do? They want to fix the relationship with their spouse. They want to, they want to get a LinkedIn profile. They want, there's all sorts of specific things people are trying to do. And if you can get yourself into that conversation, because somebody wakes up and says, "Oh, you know what? Today's good. I need to get a LinkedIn profile." And I know a guy who does LinkedIn. Like, I can help you with that, right? That's and that guy has been the LinkedIn, right? He's not a social media expert. He does LinkedIn profiles. Like, that's how you get into that conversation with people. That's how you get leads.
Well, you had referenced earlier, hey, these are the 3 things I do, and you say pick one. How do you go about helping the person pick one?
There are a couple of So part of it is that the other big mistake people make is not recognizing that the elevator pitch is a process. Like, this whole thing is a process, right? The elevator pitch starts conversations, and what I say to people is that the best you can expect out of even the best elevator pitch is the second conversation, right? That's all you're looking for. You just really you're like, I use my elevator pitch and nobody signed up for my program. Like, the elevator pitch doesn't sell. The elevator pitch makes connection.
I have this vision of them with their phone with the clover little the square thing attached to their phone that people can just run their card through.
People just run up to them with their credit card and run it right through, right? That's the fantasy people have, right? That's what they but it's not. The pitch is about starting the conversations. And so part of anytime I work with someone, it's always split into 2 phases. The first is that we work on something, because my instincts are pretty good at this point, but then they go out and use it. They go out and try it and see how it works. And the short answer to your question is that when you do a bunch of things, I like people to think about what I call the entry point. Like, why are people coming to your business? And I mean, so many people come to me, and this is true for me too. I love doing strategy. I mean, if you want to work with me on strategy, business networking strategy, I love doing that work. But if I look at the people who are part of my retainer coaching program, none of them came to me for that, right? They came to me for other things little things that I helped them with. And over time, they realized my value and signed up for the strategy work. And so people are like, okay, I'm doing this stuff now, I'm getting bigger, I want to do strategy work. And I'm like, right, but people aren't coming to you for strategy work. People aren't coming to me for business coaching. They're coming to me for help with their elevator pitch. And as a part of doing that, then sometimes they get some value from it. And so then it turns into business coaching. But the way you pick the thing that you're going to talk about is the thing that's either easiest to talk to people about, it's the thing that people understand best or want to talk most about, or it's the reason they come to you in the first place. Like, why are people walking in through the door? And that's the elevator pitch, because people want to do the laundry list. I can do this, and I can do this, and I can do this. And the way that works is you give them one thing, and that's the reason people come to you. And then once they're working with you, then you can start talking about the other things that you can do, right? Once you're in the conversation with them, then other things start coming out. But you can't give them everything up front. You want to give them the thing that draws most people in. That's how I like to think about that process.
Well, it's, I guess, a good metaphor for it is the store. I mean, you go to the store to buy milk and you come out with $40 of Lucky Charms or whatever, right? That wasn't on the list.
That wasn't on the list. Right? I love that metaphor. Yeah, I haven't heard that before. That's I like that one.
That's all yours. Go for it. Now, are there times where you might have somebody have different pitches? I'm thinking like a financial advisor. Hey, listen, if you're out there talking to young families, then you're maybe talking, your pitch it entails saving for college. When you're with a bunch of old dudes, men or women, it's a different sort of a.
Yeah, the reason people change their pitch a lot is that it's not working. So, and I encourage people if you think you constantly need to change your pitch, that's when it's really time to work on your pitch. And the thing is, once you've got a pitch that works, you're not going to change it, because you know what you're getting. You're getting leads from it, and you know the leads you're getting from it. And and I like to draw the distinction too between networking and sales. And it seems like a weird thing, but if you're doing a sales presentation, you absolutely need to tailor the presentation to the person you are talking to.
Right.
When you're networking, I mean, you could be in front of some old people, but they have kids and they have grandkids. And so the fact that you work with young couples, the fact that you're in a group of old people, that might be even better. I mean, they can introduce you to their kids and their kids' friends. And so you just never know who's in the room. But what you're looking for is the message that has the kind of broadest appeal to people. And so And that comes from a little bit of experimenting, right? I mean, I believe in changing your pitch every 3 weeks or so. Like when I'm starting with people, I say, okay, you've got 3 things, pick one, use that for 3 weeks, see how it works. then go to a different one, and you'll know pretty quickly which one is better. And so that's kind of how you hone in on the thing that starts the best conversations for your business. I mean, two financial advisors can have completely separate. They do actually have complete. I work with tons of financial advisors, tons of lawyers, tons of accountants. They all have completely different elevator pitches because they all focus on different things. And again, what you're looking for is the message that resonates most with the most people. And once you've got that, then people will start talking to you, and that's how the opportunities come out. But that's the thing. People are like, well, but I need people to come to me. Like, no. People come to you for this specific thing. Like, you want to figure out the thing that draws people in. Right. And once you've drawn them in, I mean, I never recommend getting rid of your programs, right? I mean, I do all of I have a broad coaching practice, and I do all of it. But I never market myself as anything but the elevator pitch coach. I'm the elevator pitch coach, and people understand that and come to me for that, and then the other stuff they discover along the way.
I got milk. Come on and get your milk. It's free.
Yeah, come on and get absolutely come and get your milk. Right.
Yeah.
Right. And you have to walk by the snickerdoodles and the
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
To get your milk, you got to walk past all the stuff. Yes.
Is it possible to have a pitch that's too specific? I mean, obviously jargon is a problem. That's a problem.
You don't want jargon. Jargon's separate from being specific. I mean, jargon doesn't pass the pillow talk test, right? So if you're doing jargon, it's not nobody's waking up talking about your internal jargon. So the specificity, I haven't really found. What I say to people is, if you're not a little bit uncomfortable with how specific you're being, you're not yet specific enough. It should be, I call it being oddly specific, but it should also be uncomfortably specific, because I mean, that's what catches people's attention, right? And people say, I get this conversation all the time. How do you make a living as the elevator pitch coach? I'm like, I'm a business coach. Like, this isn't a secret. Right. I mean, I do a lot of different work, but you know what? I mean, with a number of people who need help with their elevator pitch, if I filled my day with my power hours with, writing 3 pitches in an hour for people, I'd be perfectly happy. Right. That'd be a great business for me. And so I think you're kind of balancing those two things, that you're looking for the thing. The problem people have, I think, isn't that they're being too specific. It's that they haven't found the thing yet that's connecting with people. That you want to find the thing that connects with people. That's really what you're looking for.
Yeah, and maybe the things I'm talking about being too specific, or they just don't have a good pitch. The other thing I see people doing is they'll intertwine, or they'll weave into their pitch. Well, I'll give you an example.
Sure.
I do blah, 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 work with companies with 25 to 100 employees. That's my sweet spot. And my problem with that is like, how the hell do I know? I mean, if you tell me, I can't look at a car and say it's what size the engine is. That's just not, I could figure it out. I'm just not going to take the time to do it.
Well, no, and you don't have anyone walking down the street saying, I need a consultant for my 35-person company. Right? That's not the way it works. And it's interesting to me too, because the size of the company. I mean, if they found a 10-person company that had the problem that they solve, they'd work with them. If they found a 250-person company with the problem they solve, they'd work with them. So, I mean, the whole, people get up and say, hi, my name is Andy. I've been in business for 18 years. Nobody's signing up with you because you've been in business for however long you've been in business for, right? I mean, it's not, you want the pitch to be about them. You want the pitch to be about the problem that you're solving for them. And so that's I mean, that's the mistake people make. And I agree that, I mean, that what you're talking about now is the referral statement, which is one of the 3 pitches I help people with in the Power Hour.
Yeah.
That, people say, how can I help you? Who do you want to be introduced to? And I absolutely agree with you that if I say, I need small companies who are 25 to 100 people, nobody comes to mind for me. You're better off saying, I work with manufacturing companies in Salem, Mass. Or, and I don't know how many manufacturing companies are in Salem, Mass, but that gets people thinking about other companies that are in Salem, or about other manufacturing companies that they know, and that's the thing. I mean, part of the work that I do with people, in answer to your earlier question, is how do you phrase this in a way that a name pops into people's heads, right? I worked with a lawyer. This lawyer works with men who are in their second marriages, and will he work with men in their first marriage? Yes. Will he work with women in their second marriage? Yes. I mean, of course, he'll work with anybody, but he's got this special program for men in their second marriage, that and men know if they're in their second marriage or not. You instantly self-select into that, right? And most of your friends, whether they're in their second, like, people just know this about people. And so that's what I'm looking for. You're looking for a criteria that people know about each other. And you're right. I mean, the size of the company or none of that helps, right? That's why people aren't getting leads. But yes, the referral statement is a key. And that's the thing to me. The elevator pitch is really this set of skills. And the 30-second pitch is one particular skill, but a lot of people create that and then get frustrated because they're asked questions they don't know the answers to. And that's why my Power Hour has actually 3 pitches in it, because the 3 pitches kind of cover the networking stuff that you don't really get surprised anymore in most networking situations when 3 pitches.
Well, and I apologize. I kind of confuse things because, or in the AmSpirit Business Connections world, people are going to the same meeting every week, meeting with the same people. And I tell them, don't keep saying the same thing.
Right.
Don't stand up and do your 30-second commercial. You're an ice cream shop, have a different flavor every week, but they already know what the 30-second pitch is. Oh, that's helps.
Yeah, I mean, if you're really the same people every week, then it's client success. You can tell different client success stories. I mean, there's other things you can do.
Yeah.
But I'll say too that if you're telling a client success story and you're in the same group of people week after week, those people have met new people each week. And so the fact that, if you're changing your pitch and they're changing who they're meeting, it can be hard to synchronize. But if your pitch is the same or similar each week, it helps jog people's memory. Oh yeah, I say to people, you get in there and you're like, I'm looking for, I'm looking for men in their second marriage. And everyone's like, oh yeah, men in second marriage. Okay, fine. And then the next week you're like, I'm looking for men. Oh yeah, he's the men in second marriage. Oh yeah, men in second. And the third week they're like, who did I meet? I met something. This guy. Who's the third? Somebody. And the fourth week they bring it to you, right? And so a lot of the problem people have with referrals too is they don't stick with it long enough for people to catch up to them, right? Like you need to be consistent for a period of time, because that helps people understand. And I agree, if it's really the same, if you don't have guests and it's really the same people every single week, then you want to switch it up a little bit. But that to me is more a chance not to go around the room, but to have to have one-to-ones individually. Sure. I mean, there are ways of kind of getting to know each other deeper that aren't giving the 30-second pitch.
Right.
I mean, if you're meeting with the same people every week, going around the room and giving the 30-second pitch, that's not necessarily helpful. Agreed.
Yeah. No, but that's a challenge we run into because, I pick on realtors because people kind of get that, but I help people buy and sell businesses or houses. I help people, and they come back the next week, and the only thing that changes is their tone because they're frustrated, right? I help people buy and sell businesses.
Right. But that's a terrible. But again, like that's a terrible pitch.
No, I get it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, if they came with something like, I help people buy houses in Brookline, right? And people are like, well, I said, I know, but people know that you do both sides of it, right? You want to pick one of the sides, and you want to pick a town, because that's the thing. And I just met someone from Brookline. I wonder, like that gets people thinking, right? Buy and sell houses. I say to people, don't put "and" in your elevator. But I got people who send me whole emails without the word "and" because they think I don't like the word "and." But I'm fine with the word "and." It's part of my name, right, Andy? But
sure.
I don't. It's in the if you say I help people buy and sell houses, it's too much, right? People are listening to a bunch of pitches. It's too much to keep in mind. Yeah. But if you're like buy houses Brookline, like they can put that into their mind. And I don't want you to be the next week I buy houses. I help people buy houses in summer. You should stick with Brookline, because again, people are changing their thing. So this is you bring up a good point, and I appreciate your confusion over it, because it's a confusion that everyone has, right? Yeah. You're not bringing up anything that I don't deal with kind of all day long, right? People are like, well, I mean, anybody who owns a house is fine for me. And I'm like, no, that literally can't be true. Like, you don't sell you don't sell property in Europe, right? I mean, there's not. You do want to be clear. Right. I mean, I'll work with anybody. You work with 2-year-olds? No, I don't work with 2-year-olds. Right. So come on, like, and that's the thing. I mean, the problem, I like people to be specific, right? And I work with people a lot on being specific, and it's amazing. I get so many stories. People come back like, I get so many conversations. Yes. The specifics start the conversations, and it's the thing people struggle with. And I struggled with it. I mean, it took me, I became the elevator pitch coach, but it took me months to commit to being the elevator pitch coach. Right. And people ask me, I've been the elevator pitch coach now for almost 18 years, right? I mean, that pitch has not changed, and it gives me a consistent stream of referrals. And the thing people struggle with is they have a pitch that they've stuck with that isn't bringing them the referrals, right? And so that's what kind of, I say to people, like the way the elevator pitch works, you say some words, people say some words back to you. If you don't like the words that are coming back to you, you need to change the words that are going out, and people get stuck. So like, I can't think of any other way to say this thing that I do. And that's where I can help people. I come up with other words for you that'll help resonate. It'll help people respond to you. And that's the thing. Once you find the pitch that people are responding to, you're never going to want to change it, because it's bringing you money. Like, why would you change it? It's working.
Right. So, well, that's a good segue to kind of transition and talk about, types of people you're working with, types of people you're trying to meet. how people can get a hold of you.
Great. So you mentioned earlier somebody who, had a pitch and they recognize it's not the right pitch. That's a great person to send to me. And you can go to my website, improvandy.com, or elevatorpitchcoach.com actually works. And you can email me. Like you can't sign up for that program without talking to me first. So I always have a 30-minute call with somebody to make sure it's kind of the right program. Great referrals for me are groups that bring in speakers on the elevator pitch. So networking groups or chambers of commerce or trade associations, people who are looking for people to connect with each other within the group. I'm actually a great speaker for that. So if you have a group that does networking, you're looking to bring in an elevator pitch speaker, I would appreciate that. improvandy.com is a great place to find me.
Okay. I will put that in the show notes.
And the book is at elevatorpitchhandbook.com.
Okay. I assume go to Improv Andy, it's all there. The
all
tentacles
there.
up. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Make it simple for people. Well, I appreciate your time today. Thanks for sharing with us.
Thanks a lot, Frank. It's great to be here.
Thanks for joining us on the Networking RX podcast. Please put what you've learned into action today and let us know if you have questions, comments, or ideas for future topics. You can email them to us at podcast@amspirit.com. That's AmSpirit.com. Finally, so you never miss an episode, be sure to subscribe to the Networking RX podcast through iTunes, Overcast, or however you receive your podcasts. Now get out and network with someone.
The Networking RX podcast is the copyright production of AmSpirit Business Connection. All rights reserved.